Hey everybody, Derek here. We're going to take a look at the news for the 14th to the 22nd of February 2022. What are you doing? Is anybody in chat? Anyway, we're going to take a look at the news. So starting off, main news for this week is Nintendo are planning to close the 3DS and Wii U shops in 2023 and has no plans to offer classic content in those ways. So some bullshit happening here. So in March 2023, the online storefronts for both the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS will cease operations. Now that's not necessarily unexpected. Both of those consoles have been out for a long time, and support for them, like there's no new games coming out for them or anything like that, so it makes sense that they would shutter the store. But that's not really what's the bad part about this. So May 23rd, 2023, you'll no longer be able to add credit card or funds to your account on the eShop, so you won't be able to actually buy anything. But even earlier than that, as of end of August 2022, this year, it will no longer be possible to use Nintendo eShop cards to add funds to your eShop account. So you won't be able to use their bespoke vouchers and stuff to add money to that. So again, still you won't be able to buy stuff with those cards. You can still use your credit card. If you want to re-download games or DLC or anything you bought off those stores, you can still do so. The facility for that will still be available, which is pretty standard operating for that. Here's the worst part, though. Both shop fronts offered users the ability to purchase and then own many of Nintendo's greatest ever titles. So through the Virtual Console on the Wii U and 3DS, you were able to play the more classic Nintendo games, like the older Legend of Zeldas, Metroids, Marios, etc., all that kind of thing, and not even first-party Nintendo stuff, just any game. Not necessarily any game. Obviously, they had to download the ROM from a site that they keep trying to copyright block and take to court and whatever, but still use their ROMs to then make official things to make you pay for. But whatever, we'll get into Nintendo or shit for that kind of thing, but whatever. Moving on from that, you won't be able to do that anymore because you won't be able to do that. Something you are now largely unable to do ever since the company switched to a subscription model. So you can no longer purchase the game outright and own, in quotes, because technically all you own is a license to play the game rather than the game itself. Thanks for that, modern fucking software practices, but there you go. But you won't be able to buy the game outright anymore because the eShop is shutting down, and the only way to get them now is to go to your Nintendo Switch Online service, which is a subscription service, which means you still won't be able to buy the games. So as a kind of FAQ, as part of this change, as part of shuttering the store, will you make classic games available to own some other way? Does Nintendo have an obligation to preserve its classic games by continually making them available for purchase? I mean, I'd take off the for purchase part, just make them available. Open them up to libraries. You know, these games are around long enough. Mario would be like a cultural, not zeitgeist exactly, but it would be a central figure, we'll say, in video game culture. And the fact that he is still under copyright is kind of bullshit. Whatever. He should be still available to a library, at least for people to historically play the games and so on. But whatever. No, Nintendo don't want that. Basically, Nintendo have fobbed this off and said, hey, you have a subscription service, that's just as good, right? That's just as good as owning the game outright, yeah? Cool. Keep paying us money in perpetuity, right? Instead of a one-off song. Thanks. We currently have no plans to offer classic content in other ways. So basically, it's the subscription service or fuck you. We currently have no plans to offer content in other ways is an incredibly shitty thing to read, because under zero circumstances is a subscription-based model an acceptable substitution to actually owning the game. Which is fact, they knew it was such a bad thing to say that they have just straight up removed this question from the FAQ. Not there anymore. It was there when it was originally published. They took it down though, because they know that was a very, very shitty response. But they're still not going to change their practice. There is no other way now to purchase the classic Nintendo Switch, or not Nintendo Switch, classic Nintendo game without buying a Switch and then subscribing to the Switch online service, which is a subscription. Obviously, you can't subscribe to something that isn't a subscription. Anyway, that's the only way to do it. Pay in perpetuity when all you want to do is play Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time or something like that. It is not good. It's so not good that the Video Game History Foundation goes off on Nintendo's destructive retro policies. Okay, so the shuttering of the Wii U and the 3DS stores reminded the world of how terribly Nintendo handles access to its back catalog. Additionally to that, games that were released only in a digital format and only for these consoles will simply cease to exist because you won't be able to get them anymore. The Wii U shop and 3DS will have shut down. These are games that were exclusive to the Wii U and 3DS, so how do you play them? I don't know. Nintendo's like, don't care. We're not getting money for them, so we could give less of a shit. Anyway, the Video Game History Foundation are understandably not happy. Nintendo actively funds lobbying that prevents even libraries from being able to provide legal access to these games. So as part of the Entertainment Software Association, or the Electronic Software? No, that wouldn't make sense. I think it's Entertainment Software, ESA, which is a big lobbying group for the video game industry. Nintendo are part of it, Sony are part of it, Microsoft are part of it, Activision are part of it, and so on. All the big publishers. Even some small publishers, all part of the ESA. And as part of that, the ESA are like, no, keep copyright forever. Don't give anything to libraries. Definitely not video games. Keep paying us money for things that we already made and you already owned, but you gotta pay for it again because the platform that it's attached to is gone. Well, it is unfortunate that the shop was closed, yada yada. This is a business practice that was unexpected, or not unexpected, because, again, Wii U and 3DS games, there's no new ones coming out, so it's expected that they would shutter the store. However, not providing commercial access is understandable, but preventing institutional work to preserve these titles on top of that is actively destructive to the video game industry. As I said, game preservation is a real problem in the industry. Going back to any of the classic titles that modern titles have taken their cues from or their designs from, if you wanted to go back and play the original original Mario, it's very difficult to do that legitimately. It's very easy to do it illegitimately. It's very easy to get a ROM and emulate it, but not everybody wants to break the law of copyright because copyright is fucking bullshit, but there you go. Anyway, one way to put it, of course, is that it is now morally correct to pirate Nintendo games. They are actually not providing you a way to purchase it in the first place. So it's not that you are taking money from them or going around their legitimate purchase option. It's literally not an option. There is no other way to do it. Fuck you. Just pirate it. That's what they're doing. They don't provide a legitimate way to do it. They are pushing people to pirate it. Like, people aren't going to just not play it. Yeah, that's Nintendo's stance. It's similar to Sony's stance when they tried to shut down the PS3 and PS Vita stores, which they're still planning to do. But they just gave people more time. But it's the same idea. A lot of those games that were exclusive to those platforms will just not be playable, will not be accessible, and for Nintendo's practice of classic titles that they made available through the Virtual Console, you can't do that anymore either. Have to pay their subscription service, and there's no point in buying a subscription service in Nintendo Switch if you don't have a Switch, so you'll have to buy a Switch too. That's a lot of money just to pay a game that's 30 years old, more than 30 years old, as old as me. Original Mario's the same age as me. That's bullshit. That absolutely should not be a thing, and Nintendo should be given more shit for that. Nintendo are very much the Disney of the video game industry in that they have a lot of beloved titles, they have a lot of beloved characters and so on, but much like Disney, they are absolute shitheads for business practices. Anyway, moving on. So some updates this week. So Cyberpunk 2077 might be good now, maybe. It had this week, there was a stream for Cyberpunk stuff, as I mentioned, I think at the end of last week's video game recap, but basically the next gen version, the next gen patch for Cyberpunk 2077. So that's the PS5 version, the Xbox Series X version, and so on. And similarly, the PC, I believe, is also getting like a texture pack or something like that. So yeah, big Cyberpunk stuff for the PS5 and so on. So the game might be good now, maybe. This is showing off some of the new things. This is a fairly lengthy video, 30 minutes of like the new patch and how that will look and so on. Hopefully there isn't just like, well, they're playing a female character, so there won't be a penis hanging out, but you know, there might be boobs and such. They may have to turn off this video, but still. That patch is available now, so if you already owned Cyberpunk on PS4 or whatever and then bought a PS5, you can get the free upgrade. Or you bought the PS4 version, there's a free upgrade there for you if you want to get it. For PS5 owners outright, there is a trial. I believe there's also an Xbox trial, but I am not fully certain on that. There is definitely a PS5 trial because I played it. Or, sorry, I'll redo that. I will have played it by the time this video comes out. I technically haven't played it yet. It is downloading currently. So it is doing Sony's trial thing where you get the game for a month, I think. And you can play 5 hours of the game. So the opening 5 hours of Cyberpunk, and then go off and buy it if you want. And also, currently on PS5, it is 50% off. If you wanted and liked the trial and you wanted to grab the game, you can now do so. So potential redemption here for Cyberpunk 2077, depending on how well it goes and how well it's supported going forward. I would think CD Projekt Red are probably moving on to the Witcher 3 next gen, current gen, whatever way you want to put it, patch. So the PS5 versions, the Xbox Series versions of Witcher 3, it has been delayed considerably because of the Cyberpunk shenanigans. I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it looks nice. I'll give the trial a whirl, see how it goes. Elsewhere, the Steam Deck. So Valve have released CAD files for the Steam Deck, so you can 3D print if you want your own Steam Deck shell. So this is specifically the surface topology, or just the shell, the actual thing it comes in, rather than the component itself, because 3D printing actual silicon chips would have solved the fucking chip crisis if it was actually possible, but it is not currently. So no, you can get the shell. CAD files that will allow players to 3D print their own Steam Deck shell. Today we are making the CAD files for the external shell, the surface topology of Steam Deck, available for download under a Creative Commons license. Nice, good job Valve, Creative Commons. That means people won't get shit for trying to make things with it. This includes the STP, the STL, and the drawings for reference. So the STPs and STLs are 3D printing file formats, some of them. The STL, I think, is the more basic version, where it just gives you the tessellation, the arrangement of triangles to make the surface, whereas the STP also has things like colors and surface textures and that kind of thing. Anyway, if you happen to have a 3D printer and have a 3D printer big enough, the bay is big enough to build a Steam Deck. You may have to build it in parts, you may have to build it in parts if you don't have one that's big enough, but it's there if you want to get it. We're looking forward to seeing what the community creates. So, making different peripherals and stuff for the Steam Deck. One criticism of the Steam Deck so far is that most people who have had it and hands-on like previews and stuff are like, it's really good. Like, it's cool having the PC game just like right here in your hand. But one criticism of it is that the Steam Deck itself is both quite heavy for a handheld, not heavy in general, but heavy for a handheld, and pretty uncomfortable to hold for a sizable length of time, which is not surprising, because the Switch has the exact same problem, and so did the Vita, and so did the PSP. I don't remember if Game Boy had it. I don't think it did. It's just because you could wrap your fingers around the back of the Game Boy, which made it more comfortable to hold. I would think the DS had the same issue. Yeah, I remember that all right. So yeah, handhelds in general have that issue, so it's nothing to bash the Steam Deck about specifically, but I am really hoping the dock for it comes out quickly. because that's what's holding me off getting one right now, because I don't actually want it as a handheld. I kind of want it as basically a PC console thing. That's what I want. Anyway. And then final PSA, which may come too late, and that is the perils of making this a weekly show, but here you go. Horizon Forbidden West is £10 more expensive on PS5 than it has to be, because Sony are part of a potential class action issue. But the issue here is that when Horizon Forbidden West was initially announced, it was suggested that the PS5 version would be a free upgrade from PS4. And then they later amended that to say, no, it's a tenner, because that is their standard procedure now for first-party PS1 titles, that if you want to upgrade from PS4 to PS5, you have to pay a tenner. But that obviously conflicts with them saying that Horizon Forbidden West would have been a free upgrade. So to get around that, they're saying, okay, fine, it's a free upgrade, but from now on, if you want to upgrade a PS4 title to PS5, you have to pay a tenner. However, that has not carried over if you buy it directly on PS5 outright. So you don't buy it on PS4 and then upgrade to PS5. You just buy the PS5 version. You'll be paying a tenner extra if you do that. So something to keep an eye on the store. If you go to the store on PS5, you actually don't have the option to buy the PS4 version at all. So some shenanigans here from Sony trying to force you into paying the £10 extra that you don't need to. There's some conflicting reports. Some people are saying that you literally can't buy the PS4 version at all on the PS5. It'll only give you the PS5 version, and some people saying if you dive through the menus, you will eventually find the PS4 version of Horizon Forbidden West. But I haven't been able to find it. I checked, and I'm of the opinion that you just can't do it. However, you can buy the PS4 version on the PS4, which obviously makes sense. But if you don't have a PS4 and you do have a web browser, you can buy the PS4 version on the web version of the PlayStation Store and then do the upgrade. So if you want to save yourself a tenner, tiny bit of extra time to just go to the web store instead, buy the PS4 version of Forbidden West, and then just get the upgrade. Save yourself a tenner. If, on the other hand, you've already bought Horizon Forbidden West, sorry, this came too late. There's no extra tenner for you in your pocket. Unless, of course, there's a big class action suit, which potentially there could be, because Sony are making this very difficult for people to get. Anyway. Okay, new releases this week. So on top of the Cyberpunk 2077 next gen patch, which I'm not sure that really counts as a new release. Probably not. And also, Horizon Forbidden West £10 shenanigans. Obviously, Horizon Forbidden West is actually out this week. So the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, a game I still haven't played, that's been sitting on my console for I don't know how long. I managed to get to the fucking main menu once where it said press new game, and no, I still didn't do it. There's something about knowing it's a giant game that's putting me off playing it, because I'm still, I think, somewhat burnt out on open world games. But now Elden Ring is coming out, and that's a kind of open world game. I don't know. Anyway, Horizon Forbidden West is out. Reviews are all glowing. It's everybody likes it. Very graphically, very impressive from what I've seen, at least. I haven't seen it running on my own console, obviously, because I haven't bought it yet. But yeah, it's out. Be careful not to pay the extra tenner. Okay. And then also, somewhat stealthy release. This was sort of just announced and then came out 2 weeks later or something like that. So this is Voice of Cards, The Forsaken Maiden, which is another entry in the Voice of Cards series. Started with the Isle Dragon Auroras late last year. Yesterday, I played a bit of Forsaken Maiden over on Twitch. Check that out if you want. The VOD is still there, as far as I know. Should be for the next couple of days. Otherwise, it's on the YouTube channel as well. Should be. By the time you see this, it'll be out. Yeah, it's fun. I really like it. It is a TTRPG. Oh, sorry. Let's put it this way. It is a card game / tabletop role-playing game. But really, 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 it's a turn-based JRPG. Just think of it as the older Final Fantasies or Dragon Quests. It plays like them more than a card game. You're not building decks, that kind of stuff. It's your characters have specific skills, they just happen to be presented as a card. That's all. There's no real difference, but it's a fun game. I really like it. Okay. It has now become time to talk about the worst part of video games. The video game industry. Okay. So, after 200 days, employee group A Better Ubisoft, not to be confused with A Better Activision, say none of its demands have been met. I'm shocked, everybody. Once again, I'm wearing my shocked face. A group of Ubisoft employees publicly criticized the company for what it claims is continued inaction. A Better Ubisoft released an open letter last summer calling for real fundamental changes. It accused Ubisoft's management of offering nothing more than a year of kind words, empty promises, and an inability or unwillingness to remove known offenders. That has not changed. Chief People Officer Anika Grant released the results of Ubisoft's Global Employee Satisfaction Survey this week. The report was very brief and incredibly opaque, according to employees of Ubisoft. So some of the issues raised around it was that one, it was very brief and incredibly opaque. The entire survey was summarized in just 6 talking points, 3 positive and 3 negative. So they still had to hide how many negatives there really are, how many positives there really are. There was some other issue saying, like, the positive thing was that you enjoy working at whatever. But there was no indication of saying whether or not that was a 99% response or a 51% response. You know, they didn't show the actual data, so it's debatable how many people really enjoy working there. Anika Grant said that 71% of employees feel comfortable being ourselves at work. What that doesn't acknowledge, of course, is the other 29% who do not feel comfortable being themselves and have to hide themselves in fear of judgment or reprobation from peers or managers. So 71% seems high, but it's not. It's really not when you consider what they're discussing here. This is people not comfortable at work. 71%. That's not good. That's low. That's really, really low. It also claimed that despite Grant's assurances during the presentation that Ubisoft intends to really dig in to understand feedback from minority and underrepresented voices, despite the fact that the staff survey only collects age and binary gender data. There's not enough data to actually dig into some kind of minority or underrepresented voices because they don't have the data. There's nothing to dig into. So the statement from A Better Ubisoft: we're tired of having to repeatedly explain these seemingly obvious points to a management team who are either accidentally ignorant or simply don't want to listen. Not great. So the full statement is there in their Twitter. It's quite long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's there if you want to read it. Just look for A Better Ubisoft. But they did reiterate their key demands, and this was part of their open letter from last summer as well, which was stop promoting and moving known offenders from studio to studio, team to team with no repercussions. This cycle needs to end. Who does that sound like? We want a collective seat at the table to have a meaningful say in how Ubisoft as a company moves forward from here. Sounds like a union. Maybe you should do that. Cross-industry collaboration to agree on a set of ground rules and processes that all studios can use to handle these offenses in the future. That is an industry-wide union. This collaboration must heavily involve employees in non-management positions and union representatives, and they just straight up said union. So yeah, that's kind of what you want to do there. And then a reminder here, Ubisoft's response to the original open letter was like, yeah, just talk to us, we're definitely open to a communication, yada yada yada. Ubisoft continues to protect and promote known offenders and their allies. We see management continuing to avoid this issue. It is also worth clarifying that an invitation to reach out to company management personally is not the same as having a collective seat at the table. Correct. Reaching out to management personally by yourself, one-to-one, makes you very easily dismissible. Reaching out as a group, not so dismissible. Reaching out as a legally protected group, very, very much not dismissible. Okay. Going back to last week, the Team 17 report by Eurogamer on how Team 17 is not a great place to work, it sounds like. The new CEO Michael Patterson, formerly of Sony, has basically responded and said action has to be taken. Okay, are you gonna do some of those actions or just talk about it? So one thing they did is they announced an immediate pay review for staff in the company's QA department. Hopefully that review goes up and not down. Team 17 declined to comment further to Eurogamer for this article. No surprises there because Team 17 commenting to Eurogamer is part of the reason this whole thing had to happen. Team 17's quickly pulled NFT push was totally outside of the principles and values we have as a company. This is from the CEO. So why did it go through in the first place? You were the CEO of the company. You absolutely knew this was happening. Why did it go through in the first place? Anyway, other topics they discussed was pay, bonuses, workloads, company culture, all stuff that came up as part of the report last week. Basically, it's all bad. If you want to, just go back and watch that, or go look for Eurogamer's report and read it yourself. It's lengthy, but it's illuminating. However, the one topic not covered and notable by its absence was of the claims of poor management concerning Team 17's long-term owner, Debbie Bestwick, who remains at the company in the role of Group CEO. What's the difference between CEO and Group CEO? No idea. There you go. A lot of shit was leveled at Debbie Bestwick in the report. Basically, she should not have that job, but she still does. There you go. I guess being Group CEO, she's technically Michael Patterson's boss, so I guess he's not going to levy that kind of stuff. Claims of poor management at her. Disappointing, but I guess there you go. And then the rest of it is kind of corporate speak for we have to do better, but we're probably not going to do better. You know, read between the lines here. This is a publicity thing. I don't know. Time will tell, I guess, if they actually do anything. But the employees of Team 17, staff said they were also cautiously optimistic, even if actions will speak louder than words. It has to be a collective. Oh, sorry, that's from CEO. Okay, that's more corporate doublespeak. We have to do better, and by we I mean you, not me. Okay, it's now time to go back to the well of shitting on Bobby Kotick. Because despite the news that they'll be acquired by Microsoft, there's still some more shit to talk about. We thought we were done with Activision, but no. The SEC widens investigation into Activision Blizzard misconduct handling. Nice. Federal investigators have widened a probe into how Activision Blizzard's leadership dealt with misconduct claims at the firm. Oh no, did they get some more news? SEC has subpoenaed multiple company directors to find more information regarding the company's response to workplace issues. California Department of Fair Employment and Housing has now also subpoenaed multiple police departments in Los Angeles for any records relating to Bobby, as well as 18 other current and former employees. Oh no, Bobby. Are you gonna get out of there with your Microsoft golden parachute? Yes, he is. But still, there might be some mud on his golden parachute. The recent subpoena to Activision employees is dated January 18th, the same day that Microsoft announced its intent to acquire the publisher for $68 billion. Almost 69 nice $billion. That's suspicious timing. Subpoena to the LA Police Department is dated January 20th, so just 2 days later. Still, that's pretty interesting timing. California Department of Fair Employment and Housing subpoena for police records was prompted by information in public reporting, but no further details were given. So we don't know what the subpoena is actually looking for, but apparently we should know because it's in public reporting. So I guess something came out that we don't know about, that we should know about. Activision responding to both of these. So responding to the SEC's police probe, it is an extraordinary fishing expedition, according to Activision, adding that they were calculated to harass, annoy, and embarrass rather than serve any legitimate purpose. Of course, reminder that the SEC launched its investigation into the company to determine whether the firm should have informed investors about the misconduct investigations. So, Activision has a history of lying to both the public and to federal agencies. Also the issue that communication workers of American Union called for the SEC to investigate inaccurate and misleading disclosures made by Activision Blizzard. So this is Activision Blizzard lying to the SEC, according to the Communication Workers Union. This move followed the firm telling the SEC that it was unaware of any labor strikes or ongoing legal proceedings, despite the ongoing legal proceedings and labor strike at Raven Software that was taking place literally at the time. Okay. And Activision responding to California's subpoena for police records. This is part of California Department of Fair Employment and Housing broader effort to derail Activision Blizzard's settlement with the EEOC. The absolutely hilariously low settlement amount at the EEOC. Of course, Activision want that to go through because it's like a penny for all the shit they've done. And the California body are like, no. Absolutely not. You're not getting away with a light feather touch on your wrist. We're fucking shit out of you, basically. Okay. Continuing, because there's more. Even more Bobby. More Bobby all the time. Okay. Bobby has two secret companies. They're not quite secret, but whatever. Two secret companies making big Republican donations. I'm shocked. Again, I gotta put on my shocked face again. Bobby Kotick has two secret companies through which he donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to political campaigns. The two companies, Numbers LLC and Norgate LLC, were both found detailed in FEC filings. The former listed under the same California address as Kotick's More Numbers Foundation, and the latter tied to a location that's just a minute walk away on foot. According to Campaign Legal Center, a government watchdog group, Norgate also shares a personal mailbox with Kotick and his foundation. Great. I love the way one of them is just a bunch of numbers, which is like a Twitter bot, basically. Twitter bot but a company. It's been around since 2008 and manages some of his investments, says some asshole who works for Kotick. He contributes to both Democratic and Republican candidates, but surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of information about the Democratic ones, but okay. Mr. Kotick established these corporations for the banal, legitimate, and completely lawful purposes of managing his investments. So yes, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's okay. There you go. Used these two companies to donate upwards of 600 grand to political action committees supporting Republican candidates, including Mitch McConnell. Yes, that guy, the guy who looks like a turtle in the US. Him. That shithead. He pays him money. Cool. The magnitude of these particular contributions is much larger than the individual contributions that Kotick made to both Republicans and centrist Democrats in his own name. Again, founding a company to get around the individual donation limit is something only rich people can do. The regular person can't do that. They cannot compete with that level of scum, I guess. It's again another reason the whole Citizens United thing was a big problem. Like the whole super PAC shit. It's the same issue. Just being able to just funnel a shit ton of money just because it's not me giving a personal contribution, it's my company that I founded that has one employee who is me. Anyway, so that's some shit. But again, continuing, because I told you we're not done with Bobby. Why did you think we would be done with Bobby? you absolute fools. Of course we're still going with Bobby. Phil Spencer reportedly started Activision talks days after the Bobby report, i.e. the whole report that said Activision was a swamp, basically. Microsoft started acquisition talks with Activision. That's hard. Activision Blizzard just days after the publication of a report alleging that its CEO, Big Bobby, had known for years about allegations of sexual misconduct at the company. Love it. So, the timing of the conversations appears to be opportunistic. Both Bobby and Xbox head Phil Spencer happen to have documents claim that the first conversations between Bobby and Phil happened on November 19th, which was like the next day, basically. Oh, no, it's 3 days. 3 days after the Wall Street Journal report. So, I'd been accused, and then a bunch of stuff about just reminding what all of that was. Or no, my highlights didn't take, I think is what the issue here is. So, yes, they had the report, and Microsoft Activision talk also appears to have started a day after Spencer's claim. Alright, here, yeah, okay. So yes, my highlights didn't take, that was the issue here. Okay, anyway, Microsoft's Activision talks also appear to have started a day after Spencer is claimed to have addressed the Activision issue internally. He told staff in an email that they were evaluating all aspects of our relationship with Activision Blizzard and making ongoing proactive adjustments. One of those proactive adjustments being, we're just gonna fucking buy them. So yeah, this was Phil addressing the report that Activision Blizzard was basically a swamp, saying that we are, we're checking our relationship with Activision and we'll adjust accordingly because of these reports and so on. Nintendo said something very similar. Sony said something very similar. A lot of big industry names said something very close to the same thing. But turns out Phil may not have been, entirely on the level about that. Because 3 days later he was chatting with Bobby, and it wasn't like you need to do better at your company. It was, hey, how about we just buy your company? Because your share price has gone down considerably, and our CEO wants to buy it now. So Phil was like, hey, we want to discuss strategic opportunities between Activision Blizzard and Microsoft. Do you want to have a call with the Microsoft CEO tomorrow? And Bobby was like, I have to tell the board of directors about this, but not about all the shit that was happening at my company. But I'll tell them about this for some reason. Anyway, and then Bobby did talk to the CEO the next day, November 20th, where Satya Nadella indicated that Microsoft was interested in acquiring the company, and then there was 2 months of negotiations and they announced it. So yeah, Phil being a little less good guy, Phil Spencer here, because it turns out he wasn't particularly... He only cared about the Activision report because it dropped the share price so considerably that they could buy Activision. Not that the people there were being abused. It's not a good look for the Microsoft merger now, is it? Yay! Good news on a Sunday morning. Well, not morning anymore because I slept in. You know what I mean. Anyway, I'll try to finish with something fun and light, but I'll do my best. So anyway, Dead by Daylight, which is the asymmetric horror game that has a bunch of horror culture characters in it, has recently added Sadako, who is the girl from The Ring, or the woman from The Ring. Is she olden? Woman from The Ring crawls out of the well and does the 7 days thing and whatever. She was added to the game, and the developers added in a kind of funny little Easter egg that if you hang out on her character screen long enough, kind of hoping this would happen. Yeah, she pops up on the screen and does the kind of voice in your ear. And there's a good few tweets of streamers and content creators getting caught out by it. No, the cams are funny. How much of it is overreacted, or they knew about it and they're just playing it up? I don't know. But it's a funny little Easter egg, and it seems to have caught out a bunch of people on it. There's a good few listed in this list, but it's a fun little Easter egg that they added in. Dead by Daylight is not a game I have any particular interest in ever playing ever, because it is multiplayer focused, and not only that, it is PvP multiplayer focused, which are two things I was going to say despise. I don't despise them, I just have no interest in playing it. So okay, we'll loop this video so you can watch that while I outro us here. Full screen. Okay. Right, that was the news for 14th to the 22nd of February 2022. So Nintendo continuing to be Nintendo, which is, if you pay attention to the industry, they're big shitheads. But you know what? All the business guys are, so that's not exactly surprising. It was expected that they would close down the Wii U 3DS stores at some point because, again, it doesn't make business sense for them to keep those servers up. What is very disappointing is that there's no alternative added. There's no web store or something to access it, to access those games that are now will disappear basically from video game history. People won't be able to play them anymore. So unless they're already on your Wii U and you hope that your Wii U and or 3DS just continues to function in perpetuity, which it won't, because planned obsolescence is a thing. So basically it's a ticking clock on how long those games have left before they're unplayable for everybody, everywhere, because Nintendo are also stopping preservation things, like preventing libraries from accessing those games. It's preventing people from being able to purchase them anywhere else. Nintendo doesn't put their games on PC, so they can't be preserved that way. They can't go on like Good Old Games or something like that. So yeah, not only that, but they are preventing any legitimate way of purchasing those games outright. They are instead forcing you to buy a Switch and then subscribe to the Switch service to just buy extremely old games at this point. No, not to buy those games, to just have access to them. And who knows when they'll be pulled from the subscription service, because games come in and out. I mean, they're first-party titles and they should never leave the subscription service, but Nintendo have a history of just randomly pulling stuff out. And they don't particularly care for their customers, to be honest. They very rarely do any sales, they very rarely do any deals. It's always pay us as much money as we can possibly get away with, and then added like a tenner on top. Yeah. Bobby in line at the SEC investigations and so on. Again, not surprising. It's still questionable whether that Microsoft deal will actually go through. I imagine it will, but it's slightly less likely now. But still very likely, you know? It's like it was 99% likely, now it's 98. It's still almost certainly going to go through. He will still get his golden parachute, and that'll be that. He'll continue donating to Mitch McConnell, probably, for some reason. You would hope they would just shunt him off to an island somewhere and go live there, Bobby. Nobody cares anymore. But probably not. We'll probably still hear about him. He'll probably start his own video game company again. Activision 2. Something like that. New releases. Horizon Forbidden West again. I haven't played Zero Dawn, so unlikely I'll be getting to that anytime soon. Voice of Cards is the Forsaken Maiden I played on Twitch yesterday. The VOD is there if you want to check it out. I had a lot of fun. It's a good game. Coming up on the channel, we have a couple of games next week. I'll be streaming Eastward, which is a homage throwback to top-down RPGs from yesteryear. I'll also be playing Monarch, which is a new game from former Atlus developers, former developers on the Shin Megami Tensei series. It is a tactical RPG with a very interesting art style that I quite like. And then the big one, Elden Ring, is out next week. I will be streaming that on Saturday. I'm gonna try to do a longer stream than I normally do. Normally I do 2 hours. I'll see if I can extend that out to 3 or 4. That's the plan anyway. It depends honestly how punishing the game is. I may not want to do it for that long. I guess we'll see. And also the Games of July was finally released. That video that I've been threatening to release for a very longer than 1 month anyway. A very long time. Now it's time to move on to Games of August at some point. That will be Death's Door, Black Book, The Medium, and I Am Dead. 3 of those games, the first 3, Death's Door, Black Book, and The Medium, are all up on the channel if you want to check them out. I played some of them for a bit, or part of my 4-a-bit series. I haven't done that for I Am Dead, mostly because it just doesn't really lend itself as a streaming thing. It is a hidden object game that is kind of slow if you were to stream it. I think it would be kind of difficult to stream. I don't know, but I'm not planning to. Basically, I'm not planning to do a video for I Am Dead. You'll see it as part of the Games of August video whenever that comes out. Probably never. It'll come out at some point. Otherwise, that's that for the channel. Hopefully, I'll see you for Eastward or Monarch or Elden Ring or something like that. Otherwise, see you next week for next week's video game industry news recap. Yes, we're have a good day or something. I'll see you. Bye.